Thank you so much, Simon, for joining the call today. I have read about iFundYou, and and I know you are the driving force behind iFundYou. Helping entrepreneurs to unlock capital that they need for their business growth. And one thing that really strike out from what you do basically is I see the word, giving entrepreneurs a second chance.
Correct.
I know people go to banks, and they ask for things that are, almost impossible. When I saw your profile, I was inspired, and I said, I need to meet with you. What inspired you to start iFundYou?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. Originally, starting iFundYou was a new venture between myself and my business partner Brandon, and I think our main mission statement, our goal is to impact all small business owners across the nation. Right. This country, not to get political, this country is backed by capitalism and small business run America, and luckily we have the ability to create an idea and make it a enterprise and make residual income off it or make revenue out of it, right? So I think that foundation as a whole, when someone has the opportunity to foster an idea and make it a business, that excites me, right? And one of my favorite parts of my career is like networking with other individuals and seeing what type of business model you do, how do you generate revenue, and what's going around in the market.
Yeah.
And initially, to scale business, about 70% of businesses fail within the first 3 years, and it's because of the lack of access to capital, right?
Yeah.
Here at iFunded, we provide alternative financing solutions for clients who can't get traditionally approved by big banks, national banks. We do have tier one products that they can qualify for as well, but we give clients who don't meet the parameters and have like a risk factor for traditional banks, they come to us and we provide them solutions to get not only start the business but also scale the business. And like I said, scaling businesses here in America is one of one, and I think if you have the opportunity to do that here and with what I fund you, is almost a no-brainer. So that's like one of the main reasons I started this company, is to impact all business owners across the nation.
But was there any time where you felt like it was scary going into this, especially when you look at the statistics? Why didn't you go for any job rather than, get into this life of an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think you can't really teach, the it factor, right? You can't really teach someone who has a desire, a passion for success and impact. Is probably, God given. And I think one of the main reasons why I started this is to provide not only for myself and my future, but it's always to hear success stories. And when I hear success stories of how I impacted a real business in my neighborhood or famous business owners across the nation on social media, I think it gives me confidence that my service and my job was done the correct way. So and like you said, anything in life is scary. I always say if you're scared to do something, that means you're doing something good, right? If you're nervous, that's a
Absolutely.
good feeling. You need to have that
Absolutely.
feeling, and that's the feeling you need to grow in life. So
Yeah.
if I put those two factors together, right, my passion on impacting people and also my desire, passion to scale, and make an impact for my name and my legacy, I think it was a no-brainer for me to get started. No matter if I'm scared, no matter if I had second doubts, no matter if it was hard, no matter if I don't want to wake up one day, it's just a no-brainer for me. Yeah.
Are you not scared of the giants also in the market, because there are big players there?
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And I love that. I love friendly competition. I think I thrive off competition. And I'm a student. I'm always a student, right? No matter where I'm at in life, I'm always could sit back, become coachable, and learn, right? If there's someone that's better in my industry or had more skin in the game or more time, I love taking notes and implementing my own innovation and my own knowledge into what I built here. So I'm super, super excited. That doesn't scare me at all.
Many of your clients, face rejection elsewhere.
Mhm.
And what's the approach for you, giving them a second chance? Because I look at your type of business is
Mhm.
high risk. When you
Correct.
when you when you give people funding, there's a risk that they don't pay back, right?
Correct.
Traditional banks won't open doors to many of your clients, but you've
Correct.
decided to take that risk. Why?
Like I said, I think we found a great solution, and a big market and an open gap in the market to provide, the right product for clients who don't traditionally get approved from banks, right? I think it goes hand in hand with my impact and what I want to do, but also goes to the fact that, I have a great staff, I have a great underwriting team, and we have found the right way to fund the clients to proper mitigate, risk on our end, but also what's best for them as well. So if you add those two solutions and formulas together, I think it's a win-win scenario. And like I said, since inception, we probably have less than 10 defaults on our book. So we're pretty good at what we do, and we know what type of clients we're looking for. We know what to target our audience, and we know who we want to service.
I mean, it brings me back to a question I actually wanted to ask, but I think
Yeah.
you've touched on it, but I'm still going to ask that same question. Can you share a story, of a business that you helped funded and that actually inspired you personally?
Wow, it's a lot. It's a lot. Is what hits home for me is where it's business owners that come from where I come from, right? I'm born and raised in New York City, and these are business shops or owners that I've been going to as a kid, right, or growing up,
Mm,
and now I'm in the other side where I can service them and get them financing. But a couple of years ago, I was in your restaurant, I was in your institution, I was a client of yours. Now it comes full circle, and I'm actually providing a service. So one is a restaurant back home. In the Bronx. We got them funded about $175,000, and I've been going to that restaurant since I was like 10 years old. Yeah. And I actually met the owner. I knew the owner here and there, but actually we connected more on a better level after we got him funded. And he said, "Hey, anytime I'm back in the city, it's free food, free drinks for me and my loved ones." So I think that one was a special deal that really hit home for me, and it really gave me like a full circle moment that I'm really, impacting real business owners. Because sometimes when you're funding deals very, very fast, you forget that these are real individuals and real people with real goals, and you're actually making them, thrive in their business. So I think that was one prominent example where, it really resonated with me, and why I started this in the first place.
and that goes on to tell me, because whenever I look at entrepreneurs, people say passion is not enough. Passion is not enough. But when I hear you speak, I think there's a story, there's a passion, there's a reason why you're doing what you're doing. When you started, you talked about capitalism. You know, you talked about
Hmm.
capitalism and all of that. What do you think is the future of the space where you are? Because I still see the traditional banks, they're still there, but with cryptocurrencies, with other opportunities out there right now. What do you think is the future?
Wow, there's a lot of ways you could take. I think financing as a whole in the banking industry has changed over the past decade, and let alone the current century we're in since 2000, with just new inventions. Right, we go start from like the dot-com boom in 2000 back to
Mm,
like 2020 when Uber and Tesla started coming out, and now
yeah.
2020s where like more on the AI space of things. So I think every decade or every other decade there's a new innovation or new software that can impact a lot of industries. I think with financing is obviously the backbone of this country, so I don't think one, it will ever go anywhere. Yes, we might get impacted by some interest rates, some political factors that may impact how we lend to certain clients, and typically that affects more my clients than my business, right? If, for example, if there's a trucking client and the tariffs has been raised by Donald Trump, that impacts their cash flow, their revenue. That's where we step in, right? So I think it goes hand in hand, right? Any political or geopolitical factors that happen externally, like we're always going to service our clients. But I think the future of the space, to be honest, I don't have an exact answer of where it could go. I think it literally will be the backbone of technology and how AI can possibly, you know, approve clients at a faster, more efficient way, and probably mitigate risk more on my end in my company. So more features and softwares where we can like have auto approvals and different systematic approaches to really mitigate some of our risk. I think that's like the next step for me as I'm learning to lead my company, is how to take a step back and get more on the tech side of things and understand, take like a macro perspective and take a look at my data. I think data is super important. So I think from a tech standpoint, I think that would be the future for me. And in this space, it's going to be AI, data, and tech for sure.
I don't want to go into that topic of AI right now, because if we go in there,
Yeah.
if we go
Yeah.
in there, we might not be able to come out. But
Exactly. Exactly.
I like the fact that you're already thinking about that already, because AI is
Mhm.
the future. It helps you to scale your business. I wouldn't want to go into that at the moment.
Mhm.
But what's the impact of regulation? Because I know your space is quite regulated, right?
Mhm.
How does regulation affect what you do? Does it stifle your creativity? Does it stifle you in terms of what you want to do? But then you think about, oh, the regulators. Does that come across as, a stumbling block for iFundYou at the moment?
I'll say currently at the moment, no, I haven't really. There's new regulations that have been in place since inception, right? We started this company in November
Perfect.
of 2024. Since inception, a few regulations has passed within the industry with certain restrictions on states, what type of
Mm-hmm.
clients they lend to, and different requirements. I think it comes with having a versatile set of lenders who we
Yep.
do work with, and obviously the type of clients you do want to service, right? If you in this industry, if you know who you want to service and you can
Yep.
control your market, you control your income. I think if you can control who
Absolutely.
I service, I can control my revenues. I think that's the next step for me and my company, is literally how to control who we service and stay with that niche, right? Don't spread myself out too much. Just keep it nice, effective, and understand, what angle to take. I think once you know what you're doing and you pick up these reps, I think it's almost second nature. So yeah, I
Great.
haven't had any impacts on regulations on my end so far.
I know it's the early stage for iFundYou,
Hmm.
but what you're doing is amazing.
Appreciate
And
that.
my next question is, what's the future? Strategies emerge, right? You might think
Hmm.
of iFundYou when you started, oh, this is what I want it to be, but I'm painting a picture of what your future can look like, you know, funding, extra funding, going big, doing
Yeah.
an IPO. Is it too
Yep.
early for you to start thinking about that? Or do you just want to penetrate the market? What stage are you in right now? I know it's early stage, but what do
Yeah.
you, as the CEO, has as a vision for iFundYou?
I think you touched on a lot of great points, and it's kind of like it's a one word question, but I think you took three angles on it. As a CEO, you always have to have a vision, right? You always have to understand what your chapter 10 is, even though you could be on chapter 1, right? So
Mm,
first and foremost, from a KPI or quota standpoint, we want to break barriers and obviously hit our targets month to month, right? Meaning funding 7 8 figures monthly, right? We're right now funding 7 figures a month.
mm,
We want to get over to the 8 figure mark, right? That's my short-term intermediate goal, right? Is to have those
mm,
consistent numbers. And that's more from an operational standpoint where we're fixing internal and how we service our clients. That's like intermediate, right? Goal. I think long term, you always have to have that vision. I think in life, where I got to where I'm at is because I always had a long term goal, right? I always reached for things that seemed unattainable and I landed somewhere else. It's like a famous like quote I say is, you gotta, aim for the stars, right? And if you don't end up at the stars, you may end up, 30 feet in the air, you got to aim
absolutely.
high, because if you keep aiming high, you're gonna land somewhere.
Mm,
So aim high. You never know where you're gonna aim, but you're gonna land somewhere very very high compared to the competition. So I think for our goal by 2030, 2020, 2032, we want to go public. We want to have this company have about 2 to 3 headquarters. Right now we have one in Las Olas. Next is gonna be in New York. So we're gonna increase our foot size in terms of employee headcount, and then obviously probably go public 2030, 2032, with official, lending platform, official lending application, and make it seamless for individuals to get alternative financing.
I'll be waiting for that future. So, but I know
Yeah,
you are living in it already as a CEO.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
living in it because you're in there. Um, but again, I'm sure as a CEO, there's always this saying that you need to be paranoid. You know, think about where things can go wrong, think about what can come and hit you up, and all of
Mhm.
that. What's your biggest fear, and how do you think you're addressing it?
I don't
Tough
know.
one.
Yeah, I think initially when you start anything, it's okay to be scared and nervous. I think fear, appropriate fears is the correct phrase, right? You should have appropriate fear when you're going to goals. I think fear has a negative connotation, meaning mentally you're already psyched out. I think having appropriate fear or uncertainty is okay, And I think that's where you learn and you fail fast. In life, you have to fail fast and you have to learn. And by learning, I mean you have to, take a couple losses, readjust, and restructure. So I think my to answer your question, my fear is probably not having more fear, right? Having not having more appropriate fear, not being scared to take the lead, right? Not being scared to like innovate. I think that's my fear, right? If I never innovate or stay on top of the head of the curve, whatever the market's going, I always want to stay, with the competition and where the market's going. So I think my fear is not having appropriate fear and not innovating in time and still being outdated and having old systems. I think that's as a leader, as a CEO, that's where I have my vision for my company.
You continue to inspire me, and
Appreciate that.
and there is someone listening that will be listening to this or watching you right now,
100%.
and they've got fear. They've got fear. They've got the fear of the unknown. They don't want
Yep.
to take risk. They
Yep.
don't want to take risk. But each time I hear you, you talk about innovation, you talk about preparing for the future and all of that. And I've seen people as well. They might look at you. I'm not saying maybe you've had that experience. You might not have had that experience right now, but I've seen young entrepreneurs with big visions, big dreams, doing big stuffs, and then people tell them, "Don't you think you're too young for the things you're doing?" Have you has that ever come to you before?
1,000 times, 1,000%. And that's actually one of my pet peeves is when people say I got time, because if I sit back and think that, oh shoot, you are probably right, I am young, right? I will have a sense of complacency, right? And not a sense of urgency. I think that just delays, what I have to do for, not only myself, but my company. And my company, I represent, my employees, my headcount, and I lead other people. So I think that's like the biggest thing for me, right? No matter my age, no matter my experience, age doesn't necessarily correlate with experience, right? You can have a lot of experience and less of an age. You could be higher in age and have less experience in things. I think experience is the right word versus age, right? I think yes, I may be young in age, but my experience, my knowledge, the time I put in, the hours I put in to like study my craft and become who I am, is there, it's very there, right? So I never question where I'm going to end up and where I'm at. So, but yeah, that's actually one of my pet peeves. People say I'm too young. Yeah.
I deliberately said that because I hear it a lot from young entrepreneurs and all of that. But this is what I want to say to you. I've met a lot of CEOs, and I keep asking them, what do you think you could have done right if you were to go back to your younger self? Guess what? The answer is always like, I wish I started earlier. I wish I started earlier. So you're on the right track.
Yep.
Yeah,
and that's probably my answer. If you ask me that, I wish I started at 18.
Exactly. So they will say, I wish I started business earlier. I wish I started business. Well, you're successful, but they say, I wish I started earlier. Look, it's been very engaging talking to you, Simon.
100%.
And just to bring this to a close, what do you say to that person who is afraid of quitting his 9 to 5, but he knows he's got a calling to be an entrepreneur, but he doesn't want to take risk? He doesn't like his current job, but he's afraid. What do you say to this person?
That's a marvelous question, because I was once in that shoes back in 2022, 2023. It may sound cliche, but time is your most valuable currency, right? If you are currently in a situation where, your time is being taken up, right? It's being taken for granted, and you don't have time to, manifest or fund your dreams or innovate on your dreams. And that's on the forefront of your mind, and you don't have time because you're 9 to 5. It's not the dollar amount, right, of how much you're getting 9 to 5, or the dollar amount you're probably missing out on the opportunity cost. It's the time and the reps you have to put in to get to this stage, right? In order for me to have this 3,000 square foot office in downtown, Fort Lauderdale, it took time, right? It took experience. It took failures. It took late nights. It took sacrifice, So
Mm,
you need more time to get your end goal or to get to your dream, right? You can have
mm,
the picture, but
mm,
if something's taking up your hour day by day, I think that's worse than losing a dollar amount. Time is
mm.
way more valuable. So take the leap, because time is the most valuable currency, because you never will get your time back.
Thank you so much for the time that you've given us. Thank you so much for the time. And I definitely want to have you back on this.
100%.
Definitely before your IPO.